Hello and welcome to another episode of Backlot 605's Box Office. I am your host, Brian Mensing, and joining me as always is my co-host, Derrick Veurink. How you doing tonight?
Pretty good, Brian. You?
I guess I can't complain. It's been a busy weekend. There was this thing called the Super Bowl.
Yep. For our
that-
listeners, we should stay straight up. We are recording this immediately following the Super Bowl,
Yep.
so we're still on the high from watching Dr. Evil and the Cable Guy and all our great reminiscences. So
Very, very much so. And for myself personally, I think a pretty decent halftime show, but I did see a meme that says that if you're reminiscing about the people at the halftime show, it's time to schedule a colonoscopy. And I realized that they're not wrong.
boo.
When it makes you feel that old.
Berg.
I know, right? All right. Well, let's jump into this week's box office. We do have some new movies to add to this week here, starting off with our number one here of Death on the Nile at $12.8 million in its first week. This is on my to-do list because of the schmuckies. I didn't get a chance to see this weekend here, but I'm a big fan of Kenneth Branagh's Murder on the Orient Express. This is that follow-up here. Kind of an okay weekend, but I think part of that is because of Super Bowl, I assume.
Yeah, first off, I did actually finally get around to seeing this last night after my schmucky duties as well. It's pretty decent. I think it's in line with Murder on the Orient Express. It's just, classy murder mystery ensemble stuff. It's very good. Gal Gadot's pretty solid. Armie Hammer's pretty solid. Russell Brand is unrecognizable. That's very fascinating.
Is that good or bad?
It may be good. I mean, he doesn't blunder it. He's not trying to be funny whatsoever as well.
Okay.
So it's a real turn for him. But yeah, it's pretty solid. I can't complain. Obviously, there's been a lot of build up to this because the first trailers for this came out a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. So it can once again be one of those movies that people automatically think, didn't this come out already?
Right.
Certainly a possibility. Certainly there's the possibility because there's like this love triangle at the center of it that maybe they're trying to make somewhat of a Valentine's Day play, but that's not going to filter into the 3-day weekend totals here, unfortunately. But nonetheless, it is still a far cry from Murder on the Orient Express. If I recall correctly, that movie opened to like 26 million back in 2017. So this is a reasonable dive, but sure. I think it's going to have at least a little bit of a future as kind of the older audience adult option if they do show up for it. That being said, this is going to be one of those movies that comes to both Hulu and HBO Max very quickly, like all the other Fox movies have been doing recently, like Nightmare Alley and The Kingsman, and now they announced West Side Story as well. So, there's that going against it too. But, Disney had to get rid of this at some point. So here we are.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see how that goes, especially with knowing that there's going to be that quick turnaround to get to streaming. How many people are going to be opting to wait for just waiting to watch it at home?
Yeah, that's fair.
Would you say this is a decent one in terms of like the scope of? I think of like cinematography, like the viewing of it. Like this would be something that would be good for the big screen.
I guess I wasn't at. I mean, it looks mostly classy. I don't think it's as epic as like the wintry train shots in Murder of the Orient Express. You do have to go in with the knowledge that even though this is set, in the Nile River area in Egypt, this is entirely filmed in England with no location shooting. So once you get past that CGI-ish stuff, the stuff like inside the ship and things like that looks pretty slick. So there's that.
Good to know. All right, going into number 2, we've got Jackass Forever, $8.05 million, taking a hell of a hit and a 65% drop. But, and you're probably going to agree with me, is Jackass is going to be one of those kind of movies. It's the niche market. Those are going to want to go see it, are going to go see it, pretty much opening weekend right away. Yep. So it is a 65% drops. basically suck? Absolutely. But for us, I would say it's not expected.
Yeah, I mean, I would give a little bit of an argument in that. That's the kind of argument I'll give to many of these other movies. Is this is the kind of movie where Super Bowl Sunday is really going to take a lot out of the Jackass prospective audience. So if that wasn't in play, maybe we'd be looking at like a 60% drop or something like that. But you're right. I mean, there was a lot of anticipation for this movie, a lot of people that wanted to see it right away. That being said, I think the budget on this was only 10 million, so it's already more than recouped its cost. So,
Sure.
And it's going to keep going here for the next several weeks because, again, it is strictly theatrical. It's kind of your main de facto comedy option as well. So I think we're going to see it crawl to at least like 50 million here, which, again, it's not as good as the other Jackass movies, but given the circumstances and the current situation, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, I would definitely go with that. I will certainly say is I did get a chance to go see it.
Okay.
And it was everything you kind of forewarned me that it was going to be. So,
yep.
You can definitely tell. I myself I see this is the last Jackass movie just because I think they're finally understanding that unless they can pass the baton, they're getting too old for the shit that they're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're not going as wild as they were before, and it's kind of funny when they did like the comparisons of the footage, and like young Johnny Knoxville can walk away from the bull, but old Johnny Knoxville, well, he's on a stretcher in an ambulance. So, yeah,
Right.
I think they understand it. So,
Definitely. All right, going in at number 3, we've got the J-Lo, Owen Wilson, "Marry Me," $8 million in its first week. So Jackass only just skirts by this for its number 2 spot. And this is, and I would say honestly, for the niche movie this is, I understand that it's Valentine's Day kind of thing, weekend and whatnot. But this is also streaming at Peacock. So, I'd say this is a pretty decent considering the weekend and the circumstances.
yeah, I mean, first off with the Peacock thing, I think one interesting thing is that per the figures we've recently gotten, as of the end of 2021, Peacock only had 9 million paid subscribers, which means 9 million subscribers that could actually access this movie.
Sure.
And we've seen the evidence, like even within this past week, that Universal is going to keep this Peacock dual release thing going because in May they announced that they're going to put the Blumhouse remake of Firestarter with Zac Efron as a dual release as well. So obviously, even though like HBO Max got out of the whole deal with Warner Brothers for dual releases, Peacock is pretty much going to pick up that baton to some extent. So we're going to see those things kind of continue to trickle in.
It feels to me like that NBC Universal is cherry picking and deciding on how they feel like certain movies are going to be strictly like I couldn't see like Fast 10 goes into production and they do a dual release on like Fast 10 for example, but like some of these like lower budget smaller films I could certainly see them doing a dual release without even questioning it.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the areas they've gone into because they've done family movies with Boss Baby 2. Obviously, like Netflix has had the success with the rom-coms, so that's why they're using Marry Me to trade that. And then, of course, using the horror stuff from Blumhouse with Halloween Kills and this. You're right, they're not going to do everything. I mean, as we were watching the Super Bowl tonight, all the movies that they were promoting, like Jurassic World Dominion and Jordan Peele's Nope, even Michael Bay's Ambulance, stuff that they're not going to pull the trigger on for Peacock for that. But some of this lower risk stuff, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd be curious. And did you get a chance to go see this one, or did you kind of wait on this one here?
I am holding off on this. Again, the schmuckies and all my duties, like the state and stuff like that. And of course, the Super Bowl made it tough for me to get to the new releases. That's why I've only seen Death on the Nile out of this crop, but I'm hoping to get to it sometime this week.
Yeah, I think you can manage. I think you're usually good at keeping caught up.
Yeah.
All right. And then here we go into our number 4, Spider-Man No Way Home, Marvel Sony, $7.15 million in its 9th week. We're going in over 2 months with this thing here. On that verge of that, I see that you've got on there for the for the digital release here. So, I mean, what more can we say? We've been talking about this movie for 2 months.
Yeah, and I think it's going to stick around because again, it's continued to have these very small drops.
Mhm.
25% on Super Bowl weekend. If it wasn't Super Bowl weekend, we might be looking at 15 to 20 as a
Right.
number. And you also notice it's less than $1 million away from where Jackass and Marry Me are. So it
Mhm.
wouldn't surprise me if on next week's show, maybe it tops one or both of those.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. The other thing I'll point out is right now the total for this movie is at 759 million.
Mhm.
And again, it's only as of this point about 1.5 million away from Avatar, topping that as the number 3 domestic movie of all time. So when we talk about this movie in next week's show, most likely, because I still think it's going to leg out at least one more week in the
Yep.
top 5,
Oh, easy.
we'll be able to acknowledge that major milestone, which again, given during a pandemic, all this stuff, an incredible feat, a movie that like the Energizer Bunny keeps going and going and going.
Who would have thought that Spider-Man would be the Energizer Bunny of the MCU? All right, and then we have our number 5, Blacklight, $3.6 million in its first week, aka taking 96. I don't know.
Pretty much.
I mean, at this point right now, change the name, change like 3 things in a story, and Liam Neeson has another action movie to star in. So, at this point right now, I kind of want to just see Liam Neeson do like a dramatic role or something like that, just because I want to see something different for once.
Yeah, I mean, and he does that from time to time. The problem is those movies aren't going to get major theatrical releases like what this is. I mean, like for example, you guys just talked about Widows, which is an action
Mhm.
movie, which does have Liam Neeson, but he is playing a markedly different role than the
Yeah.
type of stuff you would usually see him in. So he gets those opportunities every once in a while. It's just that, as we've seen even during the pandemic, they're still apt to release your typical Liam Neeson action vehicle first and foremost.
Oh yeah. No, and at that part I get, but I mean at the same time too, like we're getting so many of these Liam Neeson action movie things or whatever to the point where, you know, one of the reasons why I see this as being so low is because we're getting to that point where I don't think anybody cares.
No,
That is
I'm
that's the part that's the point I'm getting at. Like, give him something to chew on other than just, thinking that, old man Liam Neeson can still kick ass. We understand he can, but like you gotta mix
yeah.
it up a little bit for us.
Yeah, I mean, even after watching the trailer for this movie, I thought this looked very anonymous and, there wasn't enough of a hook for it besides just
Mhm.
being a Liam Neeson movie. There's also the fact that I think at some point Liam Neeson is going to get too old to even do these types of movies, in which case he's going to have to figure something out as well. So,
Stunt doubles. Well, stunt doubles, which he clearly is going to be using now, but as long as stunt
yeah,
doubles are still a thing and they can figure out how to either digitize his face on them or use some tricky camera work, he's going to do this until he's dead.
that's unfortunately fair. You've probably cursed us with that statement, but I digress.
All right. So that has been our top 5 of the week. We come in at number 1 at uh, Death of the Nile, $12.8 million. Jackass Forever takes number 2 at $8.05 million. Marry Me just underneath of that at $8 million flat at number 3. Wow, I can't even read my own numbers. Number 4, Spider-Man No Way Home, $7.15 million. And number 5, Blacklight at $3.6 million. I'm going to say probably, I'm with you, honestly, Derek. I think Spider-Man more than likely will probably take over both Jackass and Marry Me.
Hmm.
And we're definitely not going to be talking about Blacklight next week.
No.
So the question will be whether or not if either Jackass or Marry Me we'll be talking about.
Exactly.
Because with that here, we've got 3 movies coming out here, which obviously I think Uncharted is the one that we're going to be keeping an eye on because I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that's going to be the one that everybody wants to go see.
Yep.
Mark Wahlberg, Tom Holland, Sony's foray into trying to see if they can make their video game a reality finally.
Yep.
Channing Tatum's dog, which honestly, I'm not going to lie, I kind of want to see that. It kind of looks cute.
Yeah, I mean, I contemplated because I know like on Valentine's Day they're going to do a sneak preview of it, which peak adorability because it's Channing Tatum and a dog, and also it's kind of the first like real Channing Tatum vehicle in quite some time. Not counting like his cameo in Free Guy or stuff like that. He's been absent for movies from quite a long while. So between this and The Lost City and on HBO Max, Magic Mike 3, this is going to be his big comeback year. So I'm very curious how Dog will start the momentum for that.
I would agree. And his co-directing debut.
That is correct. That is correct.
Then remind me of The Curse. I keep seeing ads for it, but I don't remember which one this one is.
Yeah, The Cursed is a horror movie set in 19th century France. It stars Boyd Holbrook. You might recall when we were preparing for the Schmuckies last week, Sam was mentioning this because it got its title replaced from, what was it, Pieces of Silver or Pieces of Eight to The Cursed. This movie came on the radar only just a few weeks ago. I think this is a very quickly, hastily put together release. So I don't think it's going to have the gumption to hit the top 5 with what we're looking at. But if it does, I'd be honestly surprised. So
more likely, chances are, this will be the only time we'll be talking about it.
Perhaps, but we got to prepare just in case. So
just in case. Absolutely. All right. Well, that has been our top 5 for the box office this week. Be sure to check us out every week, every Monday, as we talk in regards to the box office and what we've got going on. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd HQ, all at Backlot 605. On Facebook, be sure to check us out at the South Dakota Film Community Group as well. Join the conversation. People like us, film lovers, film enthusiasts, filmmakers, just people who love talking about movies. If you want to hear more, check out the podcast. We're on Apple, Stitcher, Google, Spotify, Amazon, and our pretty faces are on YouTube. If you want to help support the show, be sure to check us out on patreon.com/backlot605, where you can help support us there and get additional content. Anything else that we should talk about here, Derrick?
Well, the bad news is since the Schmuckies are over, we can't promote those anymore. However, on the Patreon, you guys, your next episode, you guys will be doing a Schmuckies recap episode. So that'll be fun to listen to. And you guys also just dropped a Wedding Singer episode on there for Valentine's Day. So we have that.
Because everybody loves the Wedding Singer.
Yep. And then also just for record keeping, on February 23rd, which is a week from Wednesday, will be the next South Dakota Film Community Group meetup at 6 p.m. over at Full Circle Book Co-op in beautiful downtown Sioux Falls.
Nice.
So what Brian was saying about the members of the group and all the people who love talking about movies, you can talk about it with us in person. So come on down.
Awesome. All right. Well, that has been the box office, and we appreciate your time, and we will check you out here next week.
See ya.
Bye.